Hello, top producers and top producers to be. This is Bill Hart with this month's edition of Reps, the Real Estate Performance System. It's my pleasure to take you to Ohio this month to meet with someone that we last spoke to 5.5 years ago, Sam Miller. Sam is a guy that has no problem at all with shaking up conventional wisdom, doing things differently, looking for a more efficient, and I want you to make a note of that word, way to do pretty much everything he can do. With over 300 transactions a year and a sales price of under $100,000, he is absolutely blowing the doors off the competition. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Sam Miller. Well, Sam, thanks very much for being with us today. How is everything in Mount Vernon, Ohio today?
Things are spectacular.
What a great answer.
Just came off a great year.
Did you? Describe it to me.
It was a whirlwind. I mean, everything just flew by really fast, and it was real productive. Had the best year transactions, dollar volume, and commission income, and you can't ask for more than that.
Well, why don't we start with that? Why don't you describe it to me, because it's a pretty phenomenal year.
We had, in 2003, we did 380 transactions.
Wow.
And what's amazing about the 380 is I did it with myself and basically 2 buyer's agents, and then the balance was just administrative team.
Unbelievable.
And so we're a lot of guys that are doing 200 or 300 units. They've got 15 or 20 people.
Exactly.
And we did it with a relatively small team, but I'm faced with an obstacle, and that is my average sale price in my market is smaller.
Right.
So the net return, the net profit per deal is lower.
Sure.
So you got to do more with less.
Exactly.
So and when you're faced with that, you just do it.
Well, I love that, and that's, I guess, part of the message that I want to share is that one of the things that I just find fascinating is that we all sort of have this artificial ceiling in our minds about what's possible. It's the Roger Bannister 4-minute mile,
Sure.
Scenario. And so there are people with average sales prices 2, 3, 4 times yours who think that, 100 transactions or 75 or 150 or whatever the number is about all they can do. And we're here to dispel that. So
yeah, and Bill, I had that same belief, 7, 8 years ago. I mean, I was thinking, I'm going to move to Phoenix, Arizona, or somewhere where either there's more houses moving, or the pricing's better, or the commission structure's better. And, I came to grips that I'm probably going to stay where I'm at, and if I want to do more, I got to do more business.
So what made that happen for you? I mean, was it a seminar? Was it an event? Was it a book? Was there an epiphany that you just had on a rock somewhere one day?
It was a combination. I had a lot of my friends their business was growing, and they were in bigger markets, and I was kind of saying, the reason they're growing is they're in a bigger market.
Right. What
I found out is that they had realigned themselves with other people that were doing more business, and where I had been to that point where I was doing 200 plus transactions, and I pretty much thought that was it.
Sure.
And so I got exposed to some new people, maybe some new systems and processes, and maybe changed my attitude a little bit and what I thought was possible. And I got real strict with my time. I wouldn't work with people that weren't ready to buy. I wasn't going out doing values on houses for someone who wanted to sell in a year. Right. I really got down, and you probably heard this over and over, but I focused on dollar productive activity.
Absolutely.
Do you want to buy? Do you want to sell? What's keeping you from doing that? If I can help you solve that problem, are you ready to buy? And the people said, yeah, I'm ready. Those are the people we put in our car and we worked with. And the people that said, well, not really, I dig a couple, questions deeper, and, over the phone, if it just didn't sound like it was something that was going to work, I was not going to dump my time, working with someone that is a maybe. Right. And I think too many times the real estate industry as a whole says, oh, you want to buy? Let's go look. And instead of spending 15 minutes on the phone up front, maybe getting a good feel for what it is they want. So, I mean, right now, Bill, you're in the market to buy a house because I could find you a house for $50,000 less than it's worth. You'd buy it, right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't everybody?
Sure.
Okay, but, in our market, you're not going to find a house $50,000 under price. Finding a house in our market right now, and I tell every buyer this, finding a home that you like and being able to afford is a good buy in today's market.
What a great way to put that.
So when you set the stage up front, they're not thinking, oh, I'm gonna find a house for $150,000. I'm gonna buy for $125,000. They're going, man, if I'm lucky just to find a house that I like that I can afford, I should buy it.
Yeah,
and
that's great advice.
Here's another little trick that we did that works real well, and that is, I don't know how many times people take, as realtors, they take a buyer out in their car and they say, well, if we don't find what you want today, we can always go out next week. And what they find when they make those comments, they don't even know they're saying it.
Sure.
But they're trying to be nice, or trying to be friendly to the buyer, and we don't do that. What we say is, I've looked at every house on the market. Out of the 40 homes in your price range, I've picked down the very best 3 or 4 that I think you'll be most interested in. And if I've done my job today, when we're done looking at those homes, you will probably buy one of those homes. Now, do you see a difference?
Oh,
in
it's
the
huge.
expectation?
It's all about expectations, absolutely. Instead of taking the monkey off their back and saying, you know what, just relax, we're going to take our time, could take a few weeks, a month.
Yep.
You're saying, no, you know what, I've already done all the legwork for you. Based on the criteria you've given me, I've narrowed it down to a few, and the odds are you're going to pull the trigger on one of those.
Right, and you have to be honest. I mean, you have to know the market.
Sure.
You have to have done that research. Certainly you don't tell someone that if it's not true.
Right.
But, you know, if you were in my market today and you told me what your needs were, your financial, you know, ability, I could go out, guaranteed in one day, you know, look at, you know, find everything there is. I could have you in the house tonight.
Right.
And you know, having the right mortgage people, having the right title people in place, you know, I can speed the process up and get it done twice as fast as most of my competitors. And part of it is I've done some of that preliminary work up front.
Right, right. So it's really, I mean, it comes back to your opening comment about average sales price. You have got to have efficiencies in your operation.
Well, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
Imagine if you do 380 transactions and you spend more than one day showing someone a home.
Absolutely.
You cut it down. You know, you could, if it took you 2 days, then you've cut it down from one a day to, you know, one every other day.
Right.
Now you're down to 180.
Right.
Yeah, at best.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be very efficient. You've got to know what the customer is looking for, and I know what every customer to a certain extent wants. They want a fair payment.
Yep.
They want a house that's in good condition or one that they could make in good condition for very little money. They want it in an area that they're happy with. And sometimes we always hear the saying, you know, what's the most important thing in real estate? Location, location, location.
Right.
I do not buy that for a minute. In fact, the first thing that realtors have to get out of their head is it's all about location, because it's not. It's all about price. Do you ever see houses that are in really cruddy locations that sell right away? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
They do all the time. And it's not priced the same as a house in a good location. So in my opinion, there are no such thing as bad locations.
Yeah.
You just have locations that are less expensive.
Right.
And those, in some cases, those homes, because they're more affordable, might sell better than the more expensive.
Sure. No, it's a great point.
So, but you know what? Everyone's hung up on location, location, location.
Yeah, well, you
I
know,
mean,
it's,
most of the stuff we learn going to real estate school and, you know, from your brokers, you can pitch most of it out the window.
oh, yeah. No, it's traditional wisdom, and traditional wisdom gets you traditional results.
It's exactly.
Let's do this.
Do what you always did, you get what you always got.
Exactly right, man. I want to set the stage a little bit because I knew that this interview was going to, I'm remembering back to the last time we did this. Longtime Rep subscribers will recognize that we had a similar conversation 5.5 years ago. Now, a lot has changed for you in 5.5 years, but the one thing that hasn't changed is that just like the truck that you race, rather than you using 87 octane fuel like everybody else, you personally run on nitrous oxide.
Correct.
Okay, so I knew that we were going to, right out of the blocks, go directly into some meat, and I love it because now what we've done, I think we've captured the listener's attention, which is fantastic. Let's now go back and fill in a little bit of foundation so people understand where you are. Let's start there. Tell us about Mount Vernon, Ohio. Where would that be for folks unfamiliar with the city?
It's geographically the very center of the state of Ohio. It's a town of only about 15,000 people.
Okay.
The county, we're the very center of the county. The county covers about 50,000 people.
Okay. Good
So,
deal.
Average income is low. It's in the low 30 range.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of high-income people, so you really have to be creative with your financing. And the average sale price in our market is a touch under $100,000, so it's not real high.
Wow. And you've been in the business how long now?
18 years. Got into real estate right out of high school in 1986.
You know, I just think that is such a phenomenal part of this story. I interviewed a guy, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago named Ray McGee in Detroit. He's 26 and also got in right out of high school. And for him, one of the biggest challenges right out of the blocks was that he looked young, but he sounded older on the phone. And he was doing a lot of REO business, so it worked out great for him to develop his relationships by phone. Then when people met him, they thought they were dealing with the son, and he had to correct them, of course. Just so that we address it, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but when you got into the business, was that a challenge for you, the age barrier?
I had twice the challenge because I looked young, sounded young, and most of the people who I were talking to about buying and selling houses, they looked at me and thought, you know, I got kids older than you, you should be flipping hamburgers at McDonald's or doing something like that. You're not going to handle the most expensive asset I've got.
Right.
So it was an obstacle, and I just, mentally, I didn't care.
Yep.
You know, what I did is I just outworked most of the people that were in my market at that time, and I did it with not a lot of experience.
Right.
And but I wasn't going to sell anyone a house who just graduated from high school because they didn't have any money.
Exactly.
They didn't have a job, no established credit.
Yep.
So what I did is I went the exact opposite, and I worked with a lot of older people, people that were looking for ranch-style homes or people moving in and out of the area, and just did some creative stuff to generate some business back at that time. Now, what was creative 18 years ago is probably not considered creative today. But
sure. So what, when you're really critical or honest with yourself about what Sam brings to the party, I mean, you, right out of the blocks, out of high school, obviously you had some things in your DNA that are different than most people, and obviously anybody that knows you well would agree with that. But if you could identify those things, what are they? What would you say are the strongest skills or strategies or maybe the perception of life and business that makes you so darn effective?
Probably just a motivation. I love a challenge. I'm a little bit competitive, so it's what hasn't been done before, and whatever that is, that's what I would like to try to do.
Yeah.
And then once we do that, then we want to bump it up another level or two, and so I guess really it is a form of competitiveness.
Yeah.
Maybe a desire to excel. Maybe in I've talked to a lot of my friends, and a lot of us that are fairly high producers. Maybe it's to prove something.
Right.
None of us know who the heck we want to prove it to, but maybe it's to prove that we can do something, because most of us didn't come from wealthy backgrounds.
Exactly.
Most of the people that are big producers, they're the ones that really get out there and bust their tail and really grow. The guys that were born with silver spoons, they're comfortable doing whatever they're doing.
It is interesting, and I find that to be a really common parallel. Sam, I've done this now for 10 years and interviewed over 100 agents that close an average of 150 transactions a year. Obviously, you're at the high side of that. But I think you make an interesting point. It's typically, not always, but typically not the 4, 6, or 8 year educated individuals who have sort of gone down that traditional mainstream path into a career. It's somebody who, for whatever reason, has said, you know what, that looks like an interesting opportunity. I could make that happen without the formal education. You've had tons of education. I'm not out to knock what you've gone through in terms of training, but it's a different path, isn't it?
Yeah,
completely different path.
Definitely. I mean, I've got more just in books and tapes. Seminars I've attended, I've probably got a 10-year degree.
I'll bet, man. I'll bet.
and what I've learned is practical stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff that I can actually use in this business or even a different business.
Yeah.
Because most businesses have equal parallels. I mean, it's just a different product.
Same application. Last month, I interviewed a guy named Jim Striegel in Dallas, Texas. First year in the business, 40 transactions. Here I'm going to be a little bit off, but second year was over 100, third year over 200. This is his fourth year, and he's on track for 400 deals. Now how that happened is he came out of the car business.
Yeah.
He was a partner in 7 car dealerships, and there were certain basic principles, like you just said, that he applied to real estate. Yeah. Most people get into this business, they look at what everybody else is doing, and they do that.
It's even worse than that. It's their broker tells them, this is what I would expect for you to do your first 6 months or your first year.
Yep.
To me, that's a kiss of death, because the broker says, the average agent in America sells 7 homes a year. So if you do 5, you're going to be real lucky.
Right.
Now, that broker is never going to have an agent that's going to kick some tail.
Setting him up for failure.
He is. And when the agent does 5 or 10 deals, he's thinking, God, I had a great year.
Right.
And nothing to take away from that agent. They just haven't had a good role model, kind of lay the groundwork for
Exactly. I don't want to lose that when we get to the team. Make sure, if I forget to ask you, how do you take that same principle, setting up the expectations, the Pygmalion effect, with your buyer's agents?
Sure.
Because you've got really that same opportunity, don't you, to set them up for success or failure?
Very much so.
So let's do this, though. Let's talk about your leads and where they're coming from, because obviously you're a student of Gary Keller or Dr. Fred Gross, and you would recognize that lead generation clearly is the name of the game for you, and you've already described how efficient you are with the leads and quickly qualifying their degree of interest and viability.
Yep.
Let's talk about the lead side. Where are they coming from?
Well, I guess before we hit the leads, probably something I want to mention that's key is my goal ultimately with leads is I want my name, my reputation, that when someone in my market thinks about a real estate agent, that my name automatically pops into their head and no one else's does.
Wow.
That's the goal.
Yep.
If you can achieve that goal, that top-of-mind awareness,
right.
If you gain that, then the lead generation becomes almost automatic. So, and I think that's important for people to understand, because you can sit and prospect all day long and cold call and do everything else, but if people don't know you and they don't have a need for your service,
right,
it doesn't make any difference. So,
well, let's expand on that, because that's really a great point. I mean, you're right. It's so easy to sort of say, okay, I need to generate leads, so I'm going to send out these postcards. I'm going to run these ads. I'm going to use call capture. I'm going to use web-based autoresponders. And what you're saying is that's all great, but if you don't already have a predisposition of people thinking of you when they have the need, you're fighting an uphill battle? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. It's like shooting a shotgun up in the air and hoping that it lands on a rabbit and kills it.
Right.
I mean, the odds is it's not going to happen. So
how do you do that? How do you build that top-of-mind awareness?
Part of it does go back to, building a reputation. And someone who's brand new in the business is very difficult to do because you don't have a track record.
Well, none of them are listening to this interview, so it's okay. They're all top producers.
But those people still have the ability to work off their company's statistics.
Yeah, good point.
Even a brand new agent can work off the success of the company they work for. And instead of saying, I did this and I did that, you can say we.
Right.
Because they are part of that office.
Right.
So, but, there's a lot of stuff that I've done. I've done, tremendous amount of direct mail, a tremendous amount of homes magazines, putting sold signs in great places. Even if I've got a house that sold, halfway down the street, I might put an arrow sign on the end of the street with a sold on it so that people start seeing the
great
success.
Idea.
Advertising in school programs, advertising in homes magazines with sold, being surrounded by that. Because, buyers buy houses and sellers buy image. And a friend of mine, Kevin Hildebrand, has been saying that for years, and I never heard it said that way, but it's absolutely true. The buyer doesn't call you because you're some superstar agent.
Right.
They call you because they think you can help them get the deal done. The seller, though, calls based on your image of success.
Right.
So that's, if anyone out there who's trying to grow their business, if they can get those 2 points in their head, then they can gear their entire marketing plan around those 2 comments. And Kevin's brilliant. I mean, Kevin's doing about the same amount of business that I am, and he's in Cincinnati. And we talk in fact, that's a key, having a sounding partner that you can talk to every day. Because I have no one in my market, such a small market, I can't talk to anybody about things that I've got going on in my life.
Exactly.
So having someone that you can talk to every day, and when I'm down, he's up and he brings me up. When I'm up and he's down, I bring him up.
Perfect.
So I think that's important.
Well, I agree too, because you've really touched on 2 things there. Let's start with the last one, and that is have somebody that, it's like if you say in January, like so many of us do, you know what, I'm sick of being flabby, I'm going to go join the gym. And we join the gym and we prepay for a year, and then we quit going in March, right? But if you've got a workout partner, the odds are better that you're going to go ahead and continue through with it.
Absolutely.
It's why coaching is so popular today. As a coach now, I can tell you that the vast majority of my clients, what they're looking for is accountability, implementation, and they like the idea of having a sounding board or an advisor. So those are the kinds of things that all of us can benefit from, but it's not that easy to find. So,
right.
So Kevin, though, the main point that you brought up there, and I want to make absolutely sure that listeners get this because I think it's huge. I've never heard it before, and you're absolutely right, or Kevin's right. You're both right. Buyers buy houses, and that means no matter where the ad is, if the house is right, the agent happens to get in the way, you earn a commission.
Right.
Sellers buy image. Huge distinction.
Yep.
So what you're saying to me is in your ads, all you started talking about there with the signage and with the ads was the sold message, the sold message.
This guy can solve my problem. I want to sell my house, and he can do it.
Right on. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Love it. Okay, so now let's get down to the lead generation. Where are they coming from? Tell me where, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, when you look at where your business is coming from, what's the source?
Okay. Homes magazine ads each month I'll run somewhere between 12 and 16 pages, all continuous in the Homes magazine ads.
So you've got a magazine within a magazine.
I have a magazine within a magazine, and I do something that goes against the grain of most brokers. I put the price, the number of bedrooms, baths, probably the school district in most cases, and the headline of the ad is the actual house number and street address.
Dude, wait a minute. You're giving away all the information. How on earth are you going to do anything?
5.5 years ago, we talked about the same thing, and it still works today.
Absolutely.
I don't want the calls from people that are not interested in buying a home.
Yep.
So I'd rather cut my calls in half.
Yeah.
But the people who call say, I'm ready to buy. Yep. I want to see this house. I've already driven by it. And when they drove by it, they pulled a full-color brochure out of the brochure box. They're carrying it in their car with my phone number or my web address. And bingo, I'm 10 times as effective to close a house they've already been buying, like the area.
Well, now watch this. It comes back to the opening word that you used or that you described, which is efficiency.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're saying, you know what, why don't we just get rid of this whole tap dance thing that we do in real estate?
Yep.
And let's get down to it so that when I've got somebody who's interested, here's all the information. If you're interested, let's get together and do this deal.
Yeah, my goal is for anyone who's interested to basically somehow, either by email, by phone, pop it in my office. They raise their hand and say, hi, I'm a buyer.
Exactly.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
And that's it. But you know what the average broker's mentality is? We don't want to give out too much information. It gives the buyer no reason to call us.
Right.
And what they're looking at is they're not getting buyer calls, they're getting prospect calls. And in my opinion, they're entirely different. You have to work a prospect a long period of time to convert them to a buyer. I want the buyer call.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't, it's, people are going to say, oh, it's going to change. There'll be a day when the market slows down. You're going to want to work those leads. No, I've got all this marketing in place. Those buyers are still going to raise their hand.
Right. So you've taken a lot of flack over that over the years, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, definitely. But all the trendsetters do. Anyone in any market that's doing something a little different, there's always that 2-month backlash. That's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, when your numbers grow and you bump up to the next level, and they're scratching their head going, maybe that might work. They'll never tell you that it worked.
Right.
But they know it does. But they're never going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Innovators take arrows in the back, right?
Yep. You're right.
Yeah, exactly right. So let's talk a little bit about the web. That's one thing that's changed a lot in 5.5 years. Tell me what you've learned. Here's what I want to hear, Sam. What did you do wrong in the beginning when web strategies were all the rage? What mistakes did you make, and then where have you ended up in your strategy with your online marketing efforts?
Very early, I didn't put enough pictures of the houses on the website.
Interesting.
So I would have like a decent color photo and maybe one of the back.
Yeah.
No interior photos.
Yeah.
And I didn't. The biggest thing is I didn't really put a button on each of the pages where they could click here for either more information or to click here to contact me.
Right.
On my original website, I did not have. I want a button that says I want to buy a home and I want to sell a home. I was definitely the first guy to do that.
Let's cut to it, right?
Yeah, and that was it. Is I was thinking, we're making way too difficult.
Yeah.
Someone's on my site. They're looking at a house. Why don't we make it a way where they can raise their hand
for
and
you.
say, "Hey, I'm a buyer.
Good for
I want
you.
to buy."
Yeah.
They click the button. They fill out a form. It asks them how many bedrooms, how many baths, what price range. And any of the listeners, you can go to sammiller.com, and on the left-hand side, there'll be a button that you click. It says, I want to buy a home or I want to sell.
Yeah.
It's an automated form. It's all pull-down menus. You enter your information. It asks you how much you think the house is worth, all that kind of stuff. You click a button, and it emails it to me. I set up an appointment based on that for you to either buy or sell. It's that simple.
And with this site that you've got now, how would you describe your ROI on it as a vehicle? Can you quantify it and say
just the sammiller.com
Yeah.
site it's probably 50 times the annual income what I pay for it.
Really?
As far as actual. In fact, it's probably harder. It's probably bigger than that. It's probably just really hard to measure.
Sure.
I know that. Either the people are coming from either Homes Magazine, they're coming from the flyers in the brochure box, or they're coming from the web.
Yeah.
Those are the biggies. I mean, I do a little newspaper advertising, but that's more image for the seller. But if someone calls, if I get an email from someone off of the web,
Right.
you don't know, did the first point of contact, they see it advertised in the Homes Magazine, then they went to the web, or did they go to the web first, not knowing?
Sure.
But I know this, that about 40% of my business, the first point of contact that I can track is the web.
Really?
So
40%.
What's that?
40%.
40%. So
now that could, though, it could be a local person who is driving by a house in the neighborhood who saw your address either on a flyer, or is it also on the yard sign?
It's yard signs. It's on the brochures for the flyers. It's in the Homes Magazine ads, in the newspaper ads. It's on my direct mail postcards. My goal is to drive them to the website somehow.
Right.
Because if they go to my website compared to my competitors' websites, they will stay at my site. Because I usually put 12 to 15 color photos. A lot of times, I have virtual tours on every listing, even the really cheap ones.
Right.
And my competitors say, why on earth would you put a virtual tour on a house that looks like it's, a junker?
Right.
Well, I'd rather them know that before I take them out and show them the home and
Exactly.
they tell me it's too rough for them to buy. And again, maybe it goes against the grain and people don't like it, but you don't have time to work with people that don't want to buy that house.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I love your philosophy because it's like complete disclosure, complete education. If you like it, let's put it together. If not, let's move on. We've both got better things to do.
Right. And you were asking about the web. I don't have just one website. I have basically 10 different sites.
Okay.
The average person does not need 10 sites.
Sure.
I've got some agents in my market that are trying to copy a lot of the stuff that I do. And so for me to add additional sites, it just makes it that much harder. And then, of course, my business continues to grow.
Sure.
So, but I have sammiller.com. That's my main site.
Okay.
I have knoxcountyohio.com, which is a mirror site of Sam Miller. They look identical. The URLs are different.
Right.
And so you can demonstrate to your clients your listings that, hey, I've got sammiller.com. You'll be on that. You'll be on knoxcountyohio.com. The benefit to that is the search engines will more likely pick up the Knox County, Ohio as a community website.
Sure.
and I won't have to pay for it with like Yahoo or MSN or Google. Those
So you're saying you don't, because of the address, the words in the address, it'll be picked up by the crawlers that way, and you don't have to pay for search engine registration.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not a perfect system,
Sure.
but I have definitely noticed it works better. And AppleValleyOhio.com, I own that. I've done the same thing. And a great place to go. A lot of people probably don't know it is a website called Jade. It's JAYDE.com. It's a free registration service, and you can register under all kinds of different things. And like Home and Garden, you can register under real estate, homes for sale, and you can register each of your websites under different categories, and it'll drive you up. And that's one of the feeders for Google.
Yeah.
Google has a deal with them where they share information, and so I rate higher with them.
And that's jade.com?
Yeah, JAYDE.com, yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Thanks for that. That's
Here's
terrific.
some big ones.
Yeah.
SamMiller.net, it's a brand new site. It's 4 months up. Right now we're working with 240 buyers right now. And these are buyers. These aren't like prospects.
Right.
240 people that my team is working with, and I only have 3 buyer's agents now. I added one this year just because we wanted to grow some business. This is a site where people can go. They can do searches on the listings, but it also drives them to additional sites I own. I own KnoxCountyListings.com, and I also own KnoxCountyMLS.com.
Now, this sounds like RealPro.
It is RealPro.
Good for you, man.
And let me tell you the thing about RealPro.
Just describe it, please. Yeah, don't assume that anybody knows what we're talking about.
RealPro is just imagine having a website that most people don't know is your website. It looks like a community website or a information website, like a search engine, basically on real estate for your community, where you can get information. But it is disclosed. It is your site with your company's name, or it's sponsored by you, and it feeds me all the information, and then I can create reports or automatically have the system send them reports, and they sign up for it, and then they automatically, every day that a new listing comes on the market that meets their needs, it automatically sends them an email. Now, I've got the system set up to CC me, so every time it sends them a new listing, it also sends me the same listing and tells me who it sent it to.
Beautiful.
So let's say I had 15 minutes during the day that I didn't have anything going on. That doesn't happen very often, but let's say I did. I could just go to the computer, check all the automated responses, jump on the phone and call 3 or 4 people and say, hey, did you get the listing we got today? Oh, yeah, we got it. Did you like it? Yeah, we liked it. You want to take a look at it? That fast.
Excellent. And really, the perception from their end, they don't know that you've got autoresponders and 240 buyers in there. As far as they're concerned, this has been sent out to them individually from you. Now, there is a disconnect, and let's address that. I mean, it's a minor thing, but I think people need to understand that, when people are going to these, I think they call them stealth sites.
Yep, stealth sites. Because
it's sort of invisible, right, to the consumer. Let's make the analogy, because here's the analogy that I'm familiar with. If you're out to buy a car these days, there is a certain segment of the population that says, the last thing I will ever do is go walk onto a car dealership lot and let myself just sort of run into their system with the guy with the white shirt, short sleeve with the tie on, who's going to put the cigarette out and say, hi, what's it going to take to put you in the car of your dreams today? They're going to avoid that whole scenario, and they're going to go to a site like Edmunds.com where they register the type of car that they're looking for. Interested or participating dealers will email them a bottom line price on the car. And what happens is, if you do the deal, you'll go to the dealership, you'll walk into a lot at a little trailer in the back of the lot that's mapped. There's no signage on it, and you'll go buy the car.
Yeah.
Well, that same consumer is interested in buying real estate.
Yep.
So what's motivating to them is, I'd like to do this without talking to a realtor, because they just want the information. It used to be, how many years ago was it when we had MLS books?
Oh, well, in our market, some of us still have them.
Okay, fair enough. But, it used to be that we guarded that data, right? And it's like, well, I have the MLS book. You can't look in this. But now the borders are down, right? The fences are down, and the consumer says, just give me the information. I just want to know the new listings, and that's what you've done with these sites. How's it working for you? Talk to me about the results.
It's really strong. What we find on any of the internet type clients, the bulk of them are not your lower end clients.
Exactly.
They're more your middle price to upper end. Now, all of us initially when we set the system up to send them the listings, the initial fear is that we're going to give them the information and they're going to call another realtor.
Right.
And the God's truth is, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that's going to happen, even if they call your office, ask you about information on the home, won't give you their name and number,
right,
and then turn around and call their agent anyway.
Sure.
So this part I like, because if they're going to do that, they're getting the information and they're not bothering me.
Right.
So it's working spectacular. I have a section in it called Knox County Home Report, where people sign up to receive automated home reports. And any of the viewers on here, listeners, they can sign up, KnoxCountyHomeReports.com. I'm not going to pester them, but they'll get the automated reports, which is really cool. Now, the people that sign up for that, automatically, I know, are people who own homes.
Right.
So what just happened?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they just raised their hand and said, hi, I want to sell my home.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then, of course, we drop that information in the top producer.
Perfect.
And then we put them on a mailing campaign. And
so you can just merge that data in?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, can you merge it? No, you can't. I have to basically cut and paste the information out of this because their process is web-based, and my top producer, I use Fixeye, which is a software-based.
Right.
So, but then there's tons of stuff like this that you can do. But the goal is now that you have this system in place and you have all these buyers, the next listing appointment that you go on, and I'm talking to the owner of the home, and I show them.
Right.
I print out the list of people I'm working with in each price range, and I can show them, I'm working with 60 people in the price range from 100 to 125,000.
Right.
The other realtor that you interviewed this morning, how many people did he say he had?
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't say.
Exactly.
Well, do you think if he had a lot of people, he'd tell you? I think he would. And you see what just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, you don't have to push people. You just give them the information they want. It's easy for them to make a decision.
Exactly. Well, I think what you've described with this system, and by the way, I think the address is simply realprosystems.com, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage everybody to go take a look at that because I think what we're looking at is a system that will allow you to actually replace an assistant. If you think about it, if you think about trying to replicate this with manual systems, first of all, you really couldn't at the volume that we're talking about, because it sounds like what you've done is you've opened your funnel, your prospect funnel, much wider than it would have ever been done with another system.
Yep.
So while you might lose some people that don't ultimately come to the table, it doesn't really matter because you've got so many more than you would have otherwise at the top.
Yeah, I lose 1 and gain 10. That's a good deal.
Exactly. I think that's a good step forward. So good. And let's talk now about some of the other marketing efforts. You've touched on it a little bit. Let's talk about like postcards. I mean, what are you doing? Kind of the traditional just listed, just sold thing? If so, what's the message? How many?
It's a cartoon.
Okay.
It's a caricature of me. The just listed is me in a big balloon. It's a Remax balloon. And then the sold is a picture of me with basically it's a sold sign. And that's the one side, and it's all pre-printed, and we print all of our cards in house. And the back side is a picture of the home. Sam just listed or Sam just sold, and it gives the street address with a full color photo of the home, high resolution. And then and that's basically it. Gives the phone number, the web address, and basically what I'm doing is I always tell them how much we list it for. I always tell them how much we sell it for. And in our area, we are allowed to send out a sold card if it was sold in cooperation with another brokerage.
That's great.
So if I don't have, and I think most people can in most markets, but it has to be very specific that you disclose or disclaim sold in cooperation with another broker.
Exactly.
And then you got to take a picture of the house if like you sold, help the buyer buy it or whatever. And we do that on every one. We always put the price of the home sold on it, and that is the key. Your older clientele, it'll never happen with your younger, but your older clientele, people that are 60 to 80 that are considering moving, they start keeping those cards. And you would not believe how many appointments I go on where someone will pull out an envelope or they'll pull out a little file folder and they got 50 or 30 or whatever of my cards in there. They know the market as well as I do because they've been keeping the cards of every house I've ever sold.
They're building their own comps.
Yeah, and what ends up happening, though, is think about that. They're building their own comps, but whose name is on every one of the comps?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's an automatic. They call us.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit about consistency because one of the things that it sounds like you're doing is being pretty consistent with that look. If you've done a caricature, you've invested in that, and that means that is your look, and so you don't change the look month to month.
Right. They're always the same.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't age as much with the caricature as you do with the photograph.
Exactly. Well, you can always add a little white hair here and there, but you know what?
I think
what
I'll
are you now?
For a while.
36?
36.
Yeah, okay.
I'm blonde. I have no gray hair. I probably earned a lot, but I don't have any.
Fair enough. All right. So advertising, we've talked about a little bit. Any other sort of institutional, traditional type advertising that we should know about?
No, I mean, I do past clients. I definitely direct mail them. We do, for all my past clients, pumpkin giveaways where I send them a card, and I worked out a deal with a local farm market where they take the card in. Instead of me buying 500 or 1,500 pumpkins and delivering them, which I think would be a waste,
right? I
send them the card. It's a gift certificate for the pumpkin. They drop the pumpkin card off at the place. There's a section specifically for Sam Miller's pumpkins. And people go in, I'm here to pick up my free pumpkin from Sam Miller. They'll say, Sam's table's over. They got 500 pumpkins of any size they want, basically. But they have to sign their name to the back, and they have to put their email address on it.
Perfect.
Now, the reason I made the email address, we were updating our top producer. I wanted to get all the email, and so they would actually tell the people, oh, by the way, do you have email? Yeah, we have it. Well, Sam needs us to get the email address for you to get the pumpkin, and not one person complained. Everyone gave it to me.
Perfect.
So we're
but the
updating
beauty
our
of this,
file.
well, exactly. I mean, you're doing two things. Number one, and I tell people in seminars this all the time, that, you know, it's, first of all, I mean, I had 150 people in a room last week in Charlotte, North Carolina, asked them, and I think this is fairly representative, what percentage, just throw out some numbers to me, of your database would you say you have email addresses on? And the highest number I heard was 75. The most common number was like 30 to 40%.
Yeah, I believe that. Our number is definitely higher. We're probably 85.
Good for you.
Because what we do now, I mean, we've learned. I mean, you don't have to learn it once.
Yep.
When you get the listing appointment, you're going to ask them if you want to communicate by phone, fax, or email. You know, probably 75% of people said it. Unless it's setting up a showing,
right.
You just got information, just email it.
Yeah.
So what do we get?
Absolutely.
Their client files, once it's in Top Producer, it's always in Top Producer, so you never lose it.
Right.
So the only people we don't have are like people that moved away that we'd still like to stay in touch with. And but that works. Something else that we're doing, and this is an easy way to compare yourself and maybe get listings where in cases you wouldn't.
Yeah.
When I go on a listing appointment, I give the client a card that's very similar to the pumpkin card, and it's for 3 free keys. So that way we give it to them. They can have 3 keys made. I guarantee you none of my competitors are doing that. So this card says, you know, you're down to this local hardware store, they'll make 3 copies of the keys, but they have to write their name, their address on the back of it.
Perfect.
Now, you know, I don't know if you believe in tie-downs, but that is the ultimate tie-down.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're going to walk in, the hardware store, which I have a great relationship with, then says, oh, you listed your house with Sam Miller.
Right.
Oh, not yet. Oh, he's the best. You got to use him.
Right.
Do you see what just happened?
Exactly.
It cost me $3.30 for 3 keys.
And a strong third-party endorsement.
Yeah. Guess who's going to be at their house that night?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
So,
beautiful.
I mean, we look over the little things,
Right.
things that could make a difference, that could sway them our way versus someone else, but we don't. I mean, that's one thing. We try to look at every avenue of the transaction and how can we do it better.
Good for you. Now, I don't want to overlook something that you pointed out with that pumpkin giveaway that is brilliant, because the truth of the matter is, rather than whatever the gross number would have been had you delivered them, you are actually only paying for those that are redeeming their postcards.
Correct.
So how many might that be? I mean, last time you did
like
this,
550.
Yeah, and how many, if you had drove around in the truck full of pumpkins, how many might you have delivered?
Over 2,000.
Hello.
But then, and the biggest thing, here's the big thing. It's a win for me. I've negotiated better pricing. So I'm not paying the retail price that's on these pumpkins.
Perfect.
And the reason is, you know, a lot of my clients have 3 kids.
Right.
I send 1 pumpkin card. So guess what ends up happening? They buy 2 pumpkins. So you see, it's a win for the vendor.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's brilliant.
You know, that concept of, again, I'm not sure where it came from, but whether it was Keller Williams or whoever, but zero-cost marketing, the concept of saying, okay, rather than me going out and spending $1 for $1 perceived value, how can I go out and help a vendor win by helping them to market? At the same time, I win, and so my investment is quite a bit lower. Maybe it's 30 or 40 cents, but I get $1 perceived bang for that 30 to 40 cent bang or buck, right?
Sure. Yeah, I've heard of people doing it at Valentine's Day with a free rose to the flower store. They send them a card, and I've not done that one yet, but I love that idea.
Absolutely.
So that probably this Valentine's will do something like that.
Yeah, and I've heard it done at nurseries with plants. Yeah, it's a great idea. And just, you know, start looking around for who do you know who could benefit from that kind of marketing, and who would appreciate that, either a buyer or a seller in whatever scenario. The key thing, though, brilliant. I love that. Great idea.
Great.
Yeah, good for you. So let's talk about the team a little bit here. You know, here you are with a really extremely relatively small team, as you mentioned. Let's describe it a little bit. We know that you've got, is it 2 buyer's agents right now?
I now have 3 because we're trying to grow our business another level.
Wait a minute. We've only been talking for 35 minutes. You just hired another one?
Well, my numbers were based on last year. So in 2003, I had 2 full-time people for buyer's agents. Now I've added a 3rd one after the 1st of this year.
Okay.
And someone who was non-licensed before, and I've got all 3 of them all tearing it up. Nobody's starving. Everyone's doing more business.
Perfect. Let's start there, and then we can talk about the admin people. Again, you've learned some things, Sam, during the time that you've had buyer's agents. Talk to me about the mistakes you made in the beginning, because I've got to assume that you, like most agents, made a mistake when you hired your first or second or third buyer's agent.
I think the biggest issue that most agents, including myself, make on the first one is that, one, we don't get them soon enough. because you work yourself to death before you add that person.
Yeah, good point.
And so you need to, if you're doing, in my book, if you're doing 20, 25 deals a year,
right,
and you have a decent average sale price, you're probably generating enough business that if you just focused on the listing side and move someone over, or focused 80% on the listing and 20% on your past client buyers, and let the new person take the buyers, that's a win.
Absolutely.
So that's probably one thing. But secondly is when you bring someone on and they're inexperienced, most agents, including myself, tend to want to pay them more.
Yep.
Without the understanding that they don't have the experience, they're going to require a lot of training, and they're going to suck so much time and energy away from my listing and selling business that I can't afford to pay them 50%.
Sure.
So that's my new deal now, is that the people I bring on, I'm not bringing on at 50. I'm bringing them on at a lower split. And everybody's happy because there's no way in my market they could go out, start their own business, and in the first year do what they're doing.
Exactly.
There's no way they could generate that kind of business. Number one, they're competing with us.
Right.
And two, they don't have the financial ability to front up all that money and build the systems.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point, because it is so easy to overlook the fact that, wait a minute, I'm the rainmaker. I'm generating the leads. Why would I not control more of that dollar? And that's exactly what you're doing. So good for you.
Yeah, and I shadowed, that didn't come to me automatically. I shadowed Alan Dahm and spent a day with Alan, and Alan never really came right out and said it, but he basically mathed out a little plan for me. And after I saw it, the writing was on the wall. I realized it.
Yeah. There's nobody better in my mind in that world. For people unfamiliar with Alan, he is arguably the number one agent in the country. I think he was 2001 Realtor Magazine's number one agent. 700 some odd transactions that year. What did he do last year? Do you know?
With Alan, I mean, it's always bigger and it's always better. and what's amazing about him is that he does a tremendous amount of business with very minimal buyers agents.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he is a master. I've never in my life seen anyone that manages time like he does.
Yeah.
He's got 2 phones on his desk that he's using all the time. I mean, he absolutely is the master.
The other really interesting thing about Alan, I think, is focus, the power of focus. His business, those transactions, comes from 17 high-rise buildings in downtown Philadelphia.
Wow, I didn't even know it was that many.
That's what he concentrates on. That's it. At least 3 years ago, that's what the number was.
He's an amazing guy.
But, you think about it, most people in this business, we get scattered all over the place. It's like, ranch property, sure. Condo, I can handle that. Yep. Duplex, sure, I'll figure that out.
He's a specialist.
Oh,
and
man,
that's the key to our business.
Exactly.
You can't be great at everything. You can be good at everything.
Yep.
But you can be great if you focus on one or two primary things.
Absolutely. Good for you. So, what are you looking for in these buyer's agents? Where do they come from? Are there common characteristics or qualities that you're looking for?
No, the team that I have now, which is the best team I've ever had, there are no common characteristics between them. They all come from different backgrounds. One was licensed and had sold real estate for, I think, 10 years. One had been licensed for maybe a year and a half at another office and was doing okay but not great. And I saw something in this buyer's agent. This person just needs leads and a little structure, and we can get this person booming. Yeah. And then my newest person came from the insurance background, never sold real estate. When he came to work for me, his first month he sold 3. now, and he didn't sell. And he sold 3, and they weren't family member clients.
Yeah, exactly.
Brand new sales that he converted from people calling in or email leads that I gave him.
Wow.
And so I mean, if you have the systems in place, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Someone wants to buy, someone wants to sell. If the monthly payment meet their needs. They need 3 bedrooms. You find them a house with 3 bedrooms. I mean, we make this business so difficult. It's not a difficult business. It's a very, very simple business with a lot of simple steps. That you have to do a lot of simple steps to make the deal happen. And those simple steps need to be executed very well. Yeah. And you're doing that. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be exceptional. Yeah. You always hear the story that, the service has to be impeccable. It has to be better than what they're accustomed to. Right. It's a great point. So, you just have to be better than what they're accustomed to. That's great. So and obviously every client is different. Yeah. But if you have a system in place, you keep a very good consistency. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go back to that expectation issue that we talked about in the beginning, because I want to know how you set your people up to win, because you were absolutely right. I remember 20 years ago when I got into this business, what we were telling people at career nights, if all our listeners can relate to those ideas, you get somebody coming in the beginning of the year who hates their job, right? They want to get into real estate. And here's what we set them up for. At that time, it was a half a deal a month was NAR's average. So now we've increased it all the way up to 7 transactions a year instead of 6, which is huge. And we'd tell them it'll probably take you 60 days to get your first deal.
Well, guess what? They would wait 59 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and watch the second hand hit 12 and say, yes, now I can start working. This is great. What are you doing that's different? How do you set these guys up to win?
Well, first off, you have to kind of figure out what it is that they want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you find out that what they want and what you think is real is not the same, then then you have to have the meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
But I try to figure out what is your number one, your income requirement. What does it take for you to be happy? And sometimes they don't know, and you have to kind of back them into a figure. Like my new guy. I mean, he said first year if he could make $50,000 to $60,000, he was a happy guy. So then I took the average sale price for a buyer side.
Right.
Took that based on the co-op split that we've got, and then factored in my split, and then I figured out what the average sale price. That factored it all in. Said this is how many deals you've got to do this first year in order to earn what you need to earn.
Right.
Now, that's an entirely different approach than saying, well, you're not going to do that because the average is 70 transactions per year for an average agent. And so he basically started day one knowing he's got to sell X number of homes to even make the income that he thinks he can make. And he left a pretty good paying job in the insurance industry because the long-term benefit that I provide, he can make 3 times as much.
Absolutely.
So
good for you.
So, but that to me is the key. And then what is it in life beyond just the money? Where do you want to travel? Do you have any goals? Is there anything that you would like to own or like to do? And, and a lot of times the answer is no, they don't know. And so, are they interested in a nicer home? Or are they interested in acquiring a second car or a sports car or a Harley Davidson? Or, having little goals causes people to come to work and do great things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good for you. Yeah, goals, it's fascinating because what it can do is if you can help them break down their daily activities to be consistent with what they say they want to accomplish, suddenly it all makes sense for them. It's like, wow, this all ties in to what I say I want to have, be, or get to, right? I mean, for somebody else, it could be financial security or travel or whatever. So,
and, I find that everyone says financial security.
Yeah.
I want to be well off. I want to be wealthy. And the thing that most people fail to do is say, what does it mean to you to be wealthy?
Right.
Because what it means to them, if they're used to making $20,000 or $30,000 a year, versus maybe what I have in my head, could be different. And
completely
I don't want to judge what they believe. I want to find out what it is they're looking to know.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. So really what we would call, in our world at Building Champions, we refer to what you just described with clients as a high-trust interview, meaning let's figure out what drives this person. Let's start asking questions to find out what lights their candle, because then we can always come back to that when it comes time to manage them, which is exactly what you've described.
Sure. And when you figure out what those things are, it's not a bad idea to have them surround themselves with some photos in their office of those things so that every day when they're working with maybe a little more difficult client, instead of them, getting upset with them and, when they hang up the phone being all frustrated, they look over at those items that, mean something to them.
Absolutely.
And they say, this isn't really as bad as it could be.
Yeah, exactly.
And that keeps them focused.
They're marinating in their vision.
Yep, you got it.
Good for you. How about your database? You've mentioned that you're using Top Producer 7i.
6i.
6i, okay.
No internet-based.
Okay, good.
No.
I was a little surprised to hear that. I'm glad that you're using a physical system. How many people in that database right now?
So over 20,000 people.
Now, hang on. That's huge. As a matter of fact, it's bigger than your city.
Yes.
It's the city plus some of the county.
Yes, it is.
Huge.
Plus, and some of those people are in for the mailing address, plus they're a past client, plus they're an investor. And we try to put as many categories on a client as we can.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that now. How do you segment that database, Sam? I assume they're not all 20,000 people are not the same group called past clients.
No,
how do you segment them?
Yeah. Boy, wouldn't that be great?
How do you segment your database? And let's just talk about the clients. Forget about vendors and friends and all that, but just past clients. How do you identify them?
Well, past clients are identified strictly as past clients.
Okay.
Then we also have past client orphan. An orphan is something where I had the house listed or sold and another client was involved in the transaction.
Got it.
So we definitely put those people into our system also.
Another client or another agent?
Another agent's client.
Got it.
Now, I want to be very specific, there are certain agents that I have great relationships with in my board that I would never do that, and they would not do the same also.
Got it.
But there are certain people that they do such a lousy job that a month after they bought the house or sold the house, the people don't even remember who they worked with anyway.
Yeah, and so ultimately the client deserves better.
Yeah, and they get my postcards, they get all my mailers, my free pumpkin, even though they didn't buy a house from us.
Cool.
They'll get my free pumpkin, and when their friend asks them 5 years who they bought their house from, they'll automatically say, well, we bought our house from Sam Miller.
Right.
And they didn't. They didn't buy it from me. They bought it from a different agent. I was just involved in the transaction.
That's beautiful.
But I
branding.
gained them as a past client by doing that.
Excellent.
Now, is there some risk? Sure. You know, you're spending money on someone that you may never get. But we do that anyway. Every ad we run, we don't know who we're going to get off of it.
Exactly.
So to me, that's big. But the biggest thing about what I do in the city of Mount Vernon is I have the city broken up into 4 quadrants.
Okay.
North, south, east, and west. So all the people that own properties are either in north, south, east, or west database. It's all broken down. And so every time that something I have going on, I'll mail to those areas.
Right.
So something happens, I list a house in the north end, all those people are going to get a card from me.
Excellent.
So
excellent.
And now again, those people, we don't have 80% of their email addresses. Only my past clients.
Right.
But we are gradually getting that built up.
How do you do that?
Through postcards. They can sign up for things. They can sign up for my Real Pro system. Because we're sending out postcards with information, Knox County home reports. Please sign up.
Right.
And we can track it because they have to put their name, their address, where they live, and stuff like that. And then they enter that in the Real Pro. Then we'll just graph that information out of Real Pro, drop it down in the top producer.
Perfect.
So ultimately, I'd love to have every single person's name, phone number, and email address, and be able to communicate with them frequently, because I think that's going to help us down the road with this do not call list.
Absolutely.
So if we've been able to communicate with them, they've openly communicated with us.
Yep.
If anyone ever says, hey, you're not allowed to call me, I got a pretty good track record showing that I have been in communication with them.
Exactly. You've
So,
got
will that hold up? Who the heck knows?
Yeah,
So,
I understand, but
you
know,
lay the groundwork. I think you've got a good argument.
Precisely. I would have to agree that that's arguably a good pre-existing relationship, which is what you require.
Sure.
So what goes out to those folks? We know about the pumpkin thing. We know about just listed and just solds. We know that you're communicating by quadrant. What else is sort of automatic that goes out to these people through the year?
State of the market. Usually quarterly, I will send out a state of the market saying the market's up, down, what price ranges are hot, just statistical data about the market. And mainly most of that information comes out of the multiple listing service, or maybe it may be my sold statistics.
Right.
The market's up. We're up 18% this year. If you're thinking about selling, now's the time.
Yes.
And then when the rates started to climb, what did we do? We got on there and kicked out a postcard and let everyone know, if you were thinking about buying a house and considered it at 5 3/4, now the rates are 6.5. You better move fast because the payment of the house could go up.
Perfect.
And again, we're trying to create a little urgency. We're giving them some information. 3/4 of the people could care less.
Yeah.
But the only ones I care about are the ones that want to move.
Exactly.
Those are the ones you want.
Separating the cream.
You got it. Yeah, and again, the people that have no interest, that doesn't mean they have no interest today.
Yeah.
They may have interest a month from now.
Yeah.
But they remember getting that card.
Excellent. So. Well, Sam, we have neared the end of the interview here, and I've got 2 last questions for you. The one is, where is this thing taking you? I mean, when you look at your goals, what does it look like for Sam? You're a young man. You have just absolutely created a world-class real estate business. Where is it going for you?
It's going to go to a point where I want to get the closings down to 5 days, start to finish.
Wow.
So that's my. I mean, I've on certain deals I can do them, real clean up front, 7-8 days. I want to get it from start to finish down to 5 days.
Efficiency.
I've had a lot of other top agents in the country say it won't work.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so again, back to kind of what motivates me. I can do it.
Exactly.
It can be done. There's so much BS that goes on in the transaction once it goes under contract, and 90% of it is self-inflicted problems.
No question.
Where if we had the house pre-appraised, pre-inspected, the buyer that we talked to on the phone before they went and looked, they were, had the full-blown credit report run. I basically need an employment verification, a checking savings account verification. I can take that thing to close.
Yeah.
That fast.
Yeah.
And have a title company that's got the pre-title done, the location survey done.
Right.
And I've done it. I have done it, but I have not consistently been able to close these deals in 5 days. I feel like if I do that, and if I can do that consistently, I've got something to market that nobody, and even no one listening to this tape, is in a position to do right now.
No question.
And if I do that, can you imagine how my business even goes to another level?
Oh, it's phenomenal. It is. It's like we opened with. It's Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile.
Yep.
And
again, it will change. And I'm not trying to change the industry, but I think we need to change the industry. I think we need to streamline it, and the biggest thing I'd love to change.
Yeah.
I would love to change this. every buyer, when they write a contract with whatever realtor they're working with,
Right.
has a letter of pre-approval.
Yep.
And it says in it that it's approved credit, approved employment verifications, only contingent on appraisal and title search.
Right.
You know, because ultimately, why do people show people homes that can't buy?
Absolutely.
Because they fail to ask the questions up front.
Yeah.
And wouldn't every real estate agent in the world, wouldn't they all be better off working with people that can buy?
Without question.
And wouldn't every real estate agent you do business with be easier to deal with?
Exactly.
But why don't they do it?
It's not done that way.
It's not done that way. You know, someone told them, you know, you take them out, you show them 50 homes, and find out they can't buy.
That's right.
You know, it's okay to waste a month, no problem.
Yeah.
I don't get it, but you know, we got to change that. As an industry, we all need to step up, and we need to do something.
You keep shaking it up, man, and that's exactly what is going to help to make it change. Sam, it has been a great time. I knew we were going to have a blast together. I really appreciate you making the time to revisit with us and bring us up to speed 5.5 years later. Can't wait to talk to you in another couple of years and see what's going on. If somebody's got a question for you, or better yet, of course, a referral, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
The ideal way to reach me is by email. And my email address is samsells@sammiller.com. It's SAMSELLS @sammiller.com.
Perfect. Sam, thank you very much. We really appreciate what you've done, and I can't tell you how much I admire the way that you are shaking things up and doing it your way. It is truly a pleasure to talk to somebody that is an innovator and a contrarian.
Hey, I appreciate you having me again.
Absolutely. Take care, man.
Thank you.
You betcha.
Okay, bye.
Well, I know that you had a great time listening to this interview with Sam, because he is just such a fantastic guy who's got such a unique approach to this business. And I hope that you will take 1, 2, or 3 strategies away from this interview, and that you'll do one more thing. I want you to look at the implementation or the execution of a great idea that you took from this interview. What is it that most resonated with you? What's the thing that if you implement it will make the biggest difference in your business? And the best way I know of to tell you to do that is to look to the individual that brought you this interview and say, be an accountability partner to me. Much like Sam talked about with Kevin in Cincinnati, look to the lender or the title person that brought you this interview and say, let's do it together. Let's chunk down this idea into executable steps, put dates for their completion, and you hold me accountable because I want to get it done. I want to know that you've executed on the great ideas that you've said that you wanted to implement, and you've not just been entertained. Until next month, this is Bill Hart for the Real Estate Performance System. Make it a great day.